Hi, I'm Lars. Welcome back to the shop. This video is not about woodworking. It's not about working on a CNC or building crafts. This video is about putting security into my shop and into my house. I thought I'd bring everybody along for a ride if they want to come, and I really hope you do. So let's get started. The security system we're going to be installing today, or I'm going to be installing, is from Backstreet Surveillance. All right, I'm not affiliated with them, but I did a lot of research. They do have a very good product. The NVR works really well. You have some bullet cameras, they have dome cameras, they have motorized cameras. Now you got to remember, the more cameras, the more functionality on the camera, the more power you're going to need. And when I'm talking about power, the system I'm setting up with for the house is going to run directly, be wired right off the NVR. For the shop, because it's a distance away, I'm using what's called a POE, or a power over Ethernet. Now this is a Netgear GS305P. It has 30 watts per channel maximum. The unit itself will put up to 63 watts out. So if you're running, you've got your uplink coming from your NVR, well, sorry, it's coming from your switch in your house or your router in your house. All right, so let's keep, I got a diagram that all this will make sense. You never want to plug a POE into a camera port on your NVR and then plug it into here. And you never want to come out of here and go to another POE into its uplink. All right, for every POE, you want to take them off of a switch that your NVR is plugged into and remap your IP addresses for your cameras. Now, you're going to read a lot of stuff on the internet that talks about different, that's not what you're supposed to be doing. It's supposed to take it out of your POE. And I'm going to tell you right now, your NVR is not managing your network. What manages your network is your router and your switches. Your NVR needs to be part of the network, all right? Otherwise, what you're going to get is you're going to get somebody opening your door to your barn, your wood shop, your house, whatever, or starting into your driveway, up to your driveway, and then you're going to see them leave. Because by the time all this data gets processed and sent through the NVR, gets stored on the hard drive, and then it comes back out to a switch, you're never going to see it. Yes, and the reason I know is because that's the first way I hooked it up, because I listen to everybody on the internet. The cool thing about Backstreet is they do have lifetime service and support. So you can call them at any time during their hours, even on the weekends, or you can schedule an appointment and have them call you back, and they really know their stuff. Now, the gentleman I spoke to, his name was Trevor, and he had me up and running in 15 minutes. So that was on my test system. So, you know, got to set it up as a test before you actually put it out. Software architect. So with that in mind, let's get this guy mounted. Now, for those of you who watch anything I've done on the electric, you know this box. I'm going to put this up above it, and I've already drug a wire in here from the house. I didn't want to bore everybody with that long trip, because this is Cat 6. So category 6 can go up to 100 meters, which is, for all the people in other countries, it's 100 meters. In America, it's like 380 feet. All right, so it is quite a bit different distance in there. My barn is about, I don't know, 160 feet from the house, so it's not really that big of a deal. I'm not losing any degradation on camera. I mean, you can stand here and move, and there's like a fraction of a second delay, but you got to kind of expect that with anything that you're going across the network. So this barn, where the wood shop is, will have all the doors covered and pretty much everything in the shop covered. The other barn will be the same way, and there'll be cameras on the outside of the buildings also. On the house, we'll probably put some stuff on the outside, kind of like just making sure the entire sweep around the house is good. And we'll put a couple in the house too. Won't be doing all that today. I'll probably get a couple cameras hooked up for this video just to get you guys on the road if you want to do something like this, and talk about, you know, pricing and all that other stuff. So let's get this guy hung. The first thing I need to figure out is, how do I hang my POE? I can't hang it this way, so I can't have the lights, the LEDs going that way. It can't be plugging in from this side, which would actually be pretty nice. So I'm going to have to turn it over this way because this is where one of the slots are, and I'll hang it up here like this and run my power cable out. But that does give me room enough to bring the cables up this area, and I can also still see the lights from the side. All right, I could have hung it like this, but then I've got to take my cabling down and wrap them back up, and that's not really good for Ethernet. All right, so let me get this thing hung. So what I've got going on here is I've got the power block sitting behind here being held with the zip strip, and then temporarily I have this cable coming down to a power outlet that I have here. Eventually I'm going to pull this power outlet and add another line to it or tap into it somewhere else, and I'll put a power outlet up here at the top. This guy here, like I said, I ran the block behind it, so it's not going to be in my way. Now all I need to do is get this guy crimped and put a connector on the front of it, and we'll be good to go with this. So what I'm going to be putting on the end of this piece of Ethernet is an RJ45 right there, modular plug. So there's 100 in here, it's for Cat 5e and up. To put one of these little connectors on, the RJ45s, you're going to need possibly a wire cutter, a wire stripper, and 100% you're going to need a RJ45 crimper. Now, the beautiful thing is when I ordered this Backstreet system, Backstreet sent me these. They sent me these, and they sent me these. So that's pretty good. So basically the kit that they send you, the stuff that they send you has all the instructions in it and all the tools that you need to do it. So if you look here, you just need to put your little wire in here, come back about ½ inch or so, and then just spin this around. And if you didn't cut, go to the next one up. So just come back about ½ inch or so, put your finger in, spin it around like 1 or 2 times, and then it'll slide right off. So that takes off your sleeve. The second thing you need to do is you need to make sure that you cut off is going to fit to the front of this clip. Mine, it looks like I did a little bit too short, so I'm going to take a little bit more off of that. Because remember, you can always cut the wires that are on the inside to make them shorter. Alright, so the second thing you need to do is you need to pull back all these wires, make sure you didn't cut any of them. And then there's a piece of plastic in the inside. This is Cat 6. Cat 5 and Cat 5e do not have this. So clip that off. There's a piece of plenum here. If you got a knife, cut it. It's going to be a little bit of a pain in the butt. Now, I'll put this up in a graphic or the details below. But the way these have to go in, and this is the industry standard, and I suggest you stick to it. Not saying that you have to. If you're running like a patch cable, as long as each of the cables, each of the sets of wires on both sides were the same, you'd be okay if you forget this or you don't have the ability to look it up anymore. But the coloring scheme is orange, white is the very first one, then orange, then green, white, then blue, white, then green, then brown, white, and brown. So the only two that really flip is the blue, white, and the green, white. Otherwise, it's always white, solid color, white, solid color, white, solid color. So when you get them untangled and laid up next to each other, and I'm going to turn this around so it's going to be as if it was in your hand, they look like that. Okay, so white, white, orange, orange, green, white, blue, blue, white, green, brown, white, brown. And if you can see this, I'm going to hold it like this. The little clip on the bottom, you face it away from you and you put it over top like that. So they'll go in like this. Okay, so the clip is on the bottom and they're going like that. Now, one thing that's very important if you're ever doing Ethernet cable, if you decide to do this or just run a patch cord or whatever and you want to build your own, is these things all have to be the exact same height. If they're not, when you push them in your RJ45 plug, they will not line up and will not connect. So these guys just get pushed in. And wiggle them back and forth a bunch. Make sure that they're in. You might have to squeeze the casing a little bit. They do send a casing cover set for these. I'm not a big fan of them. I think they just get in the way. Good thing to check is your brown is all the way to the front and your white orange is all the way to the front. Just make sure they're in there real good and tight. Push them. Then you'll have a 6-prong and a 4-prong. If you're making telephone wire, I don't know who does that anymore, but if you are, you can use it for that. But this is a 6-prong, so the little tab goes down and it will click in, and then just push on that wire and then squeeze these things together like that. And then push down on the little clip and pull it out and you should be good. Now, the beauty thing is to test this wire, it comes with a tester, all right? So if you push this little, if you had one end of the wire in here and one end in here, and I'll get a wire. I got one right here, really short one. But these come apart. All right, so you can take this out like that. They come apart, and you can plug it into one wire, one side, and you can plug it in the other side like this. Now there's a ping, so if you hit this button you'll see the lights will light up one at a time. I'm going to ping it again. You're going to see a pause. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So what this is telling me is for this wire number 4 is not right. Now, if they were crossed, you would see 2 of them that were messed up. So sometimes this kind of situation, the only thing you need to do is put it back in the crimp it down again, and then go over to the other side and crimp it down, because you never know which one's bad. And we'll plug it back in. And kick it off again. Maybe, if I can hold this button good. Got to put the wire completely in. That kind of helps. Okay, so if you put them back in and then hit the button, 1, 2, 3, 4 is still gone, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's a problem with the wire on this, the number 4. It's not that big of a deal. It's just a little patch cable. However, if it was on here, I would be cutting this thing off and doing it again. So something like probably one of the wires are just too short, or one of the connectors has been stepped on too many times or whatever. So keep in mind, like I said, good tool to have. All right. So now that you have this connected, now that this is connected, I can plug it into the switch. All right, and everything will be good. So we're going to run that behind the back here. Maybe. I'm going to run this through the back end, get it behind all these other extension cords and stuff. I'm going to leave a little extra wire here, and then we're just going to plug it in. Like that. Now, leave an extra wire because you don't know what's going to happen to this wire. It might get hung up, it might get cut. You might need to cut that little connector off 15 times. I don't know. Anything in the world can happen. But trust me, you don't want to run the wire more than once. And I've heard to run this wire twice. All right? So the next part is to, down this hallway, is to start getting these wires tacked in. Okay? And they go all the way back. So you guys are going to end up seeing the other side of the barn and where we're coming in and everything else. All right, so let's head on down that way. Okay, one of the cool things that came with my Backstreet package was they gave us 2 packages of cable ties. One was white, one was black. You know, best preferences or whatever. I'm going to use these to string up this cable that I have here. And I'm going to start down here by the camera, and I'm just going to loosely put these in. So I'm just taking a couple cable ties, since they're going around 2x6s. And just kind of stringing them together like this, and then going to run them around the 2x6 and just put the wire in between. I don't really see the need to use a staple here, because if these here break or wear out, I can always replace them. And I don't really feel like getting covered in all these cobwebs and dust and everything else that's in this barn. All right, so now we have this one here. And then this one's gonna up, so I'll meet you upstairs. So one thing to keep in mind when you're putting in these staples, if you ever do this, if you're ever going to run this, do not put that staple all the way in. About halfway in, you want this cable to be able to be moved around fluidly in case you need to pull it later. Because you really don't want to have to go back and have to undo every single staple in your path. Okay? If you have to do every single staple in your path and you've run 380 feet, you're probably doing a staple about, on average in places, about every 4 feet. Some places it might be, you know, every 12 feet, but that's why I use the straps, because, you know, they're loose, they stay loose, you can cut them free quick. So if you're wondering why I'm running them up and down, cats like to jump up on things. They like to jump up on ledges like this. If there's a wire there and they fall, they'll rip it down. Also, rats are in the barn. There's rats here. Cats supposed to be killing the rats, but you know, I think some of our cats take after, you know, Tom from Tom and Jerry, and yeah, they don't do a real good job at it. But if a rat keeps on coming across a one of its paths, like one of these beams or something, and there's that cable there and they don't like it, they'll chew right through it and it'll be gone. Okay, so here's the scary part. I'm just going to put the camera here and you guys will figure it out. Alright, so this guy right here is the POE switch for the cameras that are going to be inside of this barn and on the outside of this barn. The wire that is plugged into the edge right here, right there, that guy, that's going back to the switch that's in the house. That is what the other POE, that wire is also running back to the house. So there's two wires running back to the house. So something to keep in mind if you're running POEs to your shop and it's on your property or wherever you're running them to, POEs cannot be daisy chained, all right? I don't know why. I have no idea why. Now, like I said, I don't know for sure, but this is what Trevor at Backstreet told me. He said, they don't work. Everyone that's on the internet that's telling you daisy chain your POEs, that doesn't work. You got to get them back to a switch. So we actually did a test run in here. This is why I had to run that wire twice. So I did a test run in here with the POE and then tried to daisy chain to a POE, and he's right, it just doesn't work. If you have one camera on it, it doesn't work. You have two cameras, it really doesn't work. But the first camera was fine. So we ran two lines out here and they work just fine. So just for your knowledge, do not daisy chain your POEs. All right, I think you guys will see me running up ladders and stuff way too much. All right, so on this side of the camera, you have a connector for power. Looks like it's maybe a 9-volt kind of jack. These cameras do not come with power cords because these are mainly for power over Ethernet. So what that means is on this Ethernet cable, one of the wires that are in here, or two of the wires, are going to throw voltage across it. And it can be up to as much as 57 volts. So low amperage, high volts to power these cameras up. And I don't know the exact, what these guys exactly have on. I don't think there's any real specs in this booklet that comes with it. This booklet to me seems kind of old school. It looks like it's kind of trying to hook it up on Windows 95 or something like that. But you're not going to use any of that portion of it. The front portion of this explains on how the actual how to mount the camera and whatnot. And then there's a little guide here, if you can see it. I had to take a picture of my phone to blow it up. No disrespect to anybody. It's just that, I can't really read it. So that's what we're going to talk about, is how to put this cable on right here. So if you already have your RJ45 on, that's fine. What you need to do is you take this little cap. This thing comes with a little cap. There's a little rubber washer or grommet, if you will. That goes on the camera. All right, because you're trying to make a waterproof seal around where the RJ45 is. It comes with a little bushing or gasket. This guy here splits apart. No, I did not cut that. And it comes with the housing. So this guy goes on first. You kind of slide that down. And then secondly, you put this guy on. Once this goes on, you're not going to be able to pull it off unless you press down on this little button here with a screwdriver to get it out. So just keep that in mind. And then these two here screw on together like that. Just a housing, nothing major. You take this portion and you put it around your wire, and then you slide this up and you push that down in there some, like that. All right. with your little gasket around the camera side, line up your part for your press button for the RJ45, click them in, and then you got to find, there's two little bumps here, one on each side of the housing. Just push them together like that and twist it, and now the rubber gasket and that little bushing in the back provide a waterproof seal on these. All right, so this is for anything going outside, or like I'm in a barn, so it's kind of we've got a leaky situation here. All right, so that's that. So when you're installing your cameras, all right, I highly recommend just cutting a long piece of cable. Now, the length of the cable would probably be what I would do. I've got a cable that I ran between the barns originally, that's what I'm using. But a cable from wherever your POE is going to be to the longest distance out from your camera, all right? And then I would use that cable to plug into your POE, plug it into your camera, and work your way out to the longest camera. So if you got a camera that's like 25 feet away, you can plug it into the POE, bring it up to the 25-foot camera, and then say, yep, this is where I want it, mount that camera. And then figure out where you're gonna run the wiring later. And then go to the next camera, the next camera, the next camera. So on the last camera, you've got the wire that you already need, and you can just tack it in place as you go. All right, this gives you a little bit of a little flexibility with your wiring. Otherwise, you're gonna be carrying this big box of wiring everywhere you go. That's just what I'm doing. If you guys wanna do something else, that's fine. So they do have a mobile application called Pro Vue. It actually is a pretty good app. It does give you it gives me what I need. I need the ability to go in and say, hey, what's going on in my barn, okay? So when it's like this, you can pick from the cameras that you have. I've got 3 hooked up at the moment. That's me standing there. You can zoom in pretty well, but my hands are cold today. It is cold in the barn, so my phone's not picking up on that. Sort of like having gloves on, if you will. It all picks up on, there we go. So there you go. Get it heated up a little bit, you can kind of see me. There is a delay on this, all right? It is going through a local WAP that I have here, which is only 100 megabit local WAP. I don't really need any more than that. I'm just using this for internet and to see if somebody's in my driveway. It's not like I'm transferring, we are transferring a lot of data back and forth, but I don't need that speed. If you do, go buy a 1 gigabit or a 10 gigabit, it'll work. These cameras transmit, they record up to 4K video. You can make them any level you want, but all the way up to 4K. You got your jack that we talked about, and this is for power. I highly recommend doing a POE unless you want to put outlets all over your house or your place of work to plug in these cameras. All right? Let's keep that in mind. From the camera, they go to the POE switch locally, and then they go into a switch that's inside of the house in my office. And then from that switch, the NVR is plugged into it, and then data gets sent to the NVR and then gets stored on a hard drive, okay? I've got 2 Western Digital 10 terabyte video surveillance hard drives in there. They're NAS hard drives, but they're the purple Western Digital. They're made specifically for video. You gotta remember, if you have like 16 or 32 or 8 or whatever type of video cameras that are transmitting data back to that NVR, it's writing this video all over the place, okay? So it becomes fragmented. Every night it goes through a maintenance window where it defrags that hard drive and gets everything straightened back out, and then it keeps on writing again, okay? So these things are made for that. If you were to do this with a normal hard drive, you would destroy it very quickly. So make sure if you're looking at one of these systems that you do get video hard drives or video surveillance hard drives or whatever they're called. Western Digital Purple is what I used. I did a lot of research on it. They seem to do really well. All right, we're back in the office. I'm going to show you how the switch and what our future plans are for the ports that are coming in from the cameras that are going to be directly connected to the NVR is. So this is the switch. Switches are not that big of a deal. This is a 1 gigabit switch. It's just a Trendnet. So we have our connection here going out to the router.
So the rest of the network, you know, you can get to it through the mobile app. This wire and this wire are the two wires that are going outside. So I highly recommend labeling them with like tape. So this one's green. This one I need to put a piece of red tape on. This one goes to the new barn where I was recording today. And this is from the old barn. This is called a 110 punch down block. I am actually removing this off of here and going to be putting an RJ45 on it. And the reason behind that is, well, one more thing. This goes up to the NVR, which sits up at the top. Okay. So the reason that we're pulling off this 110 punch block is I'm going to put a 4-panel outlet box in here. I'm going to cut this out and put a 4-panel outlet box in. And I'm going to be putting a DIY Tech 24 port, basically patch panel block in it. And the nice thing about them is they don't take these 110 punch downs, which these are a pain in the butt to wire up, and they come apart. These wires tend to break easily once they're in this kind of connection. But the DIY Tech has a female jack on the inside and on the outside. And I will leave a link in the description below for all of this stuff. Okay, so once you get up here to the top, we're going into the WAN port. Right here is a WAN port on the NVR. Now I unplugged it for a second, so there might be a beep, but this tells you that there's activity going on, and then this here tells you that there is activity going on at a lower rate. Alright, so these are all the ports that the jacks for the cameras connect to that are directly going into the NVR. You do have a line in and audio out. You have VGA, ours is run on HDMI. There's USB ports on it. There's also one on the front. There's a patch panel here for your alarms. I don't know anything about this at the moment. When I get more information on this, because I'm going to be heading down that path, I will do another video on it. The front of it, which I have facing away, just looks like this. There's really not much to it. It just tells you that it's on. The power button's on the back. Now, one thing I don't like about the system, and I know it's probably a security feature, is you cannot hook a keyboard up to it. All right, but there is software that you can put on your Windows device. I think it might go on your Mac devices also, that allows you to do a lot more stuff from your computer. All right, so let's get into that. All right, this next part of the video is going to show how to attach a camera remotely and over the PoE, and then actually how to attach it to the LAN port. So I'm not going to show you the actual plugging into the jacks. I'm just going to show you how to do it through the software. And then we'll go over a little bit of the software about the NVR interface. So since I've already got the PoE, the very first camera set up out there, and I had to tie it into my router network. So I had to change my whatever, it's like 010.010.025. whatever, 001 was their gateway, or it's their gateway, it's their IP address where everything starts. Okay, so I had to use that initially, but once I switched these cameras over on the PoEs to come into my network, which is 192.168.3.1 on, now they automatically do that. So when I add that camera out there externally, it's going to be like boom, and it's going to be on the system. All right, as soon as I add it, it's going to find it, it's going to put it in, everybody will be fine. However, since I have not added one for the LAN, and it's going to come up with whatever it comes up with. All right, I don't know what it's going to come up with because I haven't added anything onto the LAN since, you know, we've been working out with the PoE stuff. So originally, when I first got the system and I put one on the camera, it was 010.010.025.134 or whatever it was. I don't know what it's going to come up with today. So we'll find that out, and there might be a little bit of, I got to go through and set the IP address and set the new gateway and set the new subnet. All right, but that will be something you'll have to do initially with the PoE. You got to get that on your own network. Now, if anyone has any questions with this, if they go and they buy a Backstreet system or whatever, feel free to send me an email, send me a note, whatever, and I will
talk you through it, or contact Backstreet and they'll talk you through it real quick. They'll literally log into your system using something called AnyDesk, and they'll drop some software on it and they'll open it up, and you'll have to get the MAC address from your machine, and everything will be done in like 15 minutes. All right, so they're really good at what they do. All right, so let's get this one rolling. All right, so when the system comes up, you first see all of the cameras that you have going right now. Like I said before, we have 3 of them, and you can click on any one of these pictures, double click, and you can see the camera quality is pretty good. At least I'm hoping you can see the camera quality is pretty good. But you know, recording in HDMI or a 4K TV through a camera that is 4K, but it doesn't mean it's going to pick it up that well. So if I hit the right button, typically you do that and it comes back to where you're at. Got to unlock. I don't have my password set up right now just for this video. So there's 2 more cameras that are going to be on. One right now has currently been connected in the barn, and now I'm just going to connect one here in the office, and it'll be pointed at me, pointed up here at me, hopefully. So the first thing you need to do is you need to go to Setup, and you're going to have channel, record, alarm, network, device, and system. Device is hard drives. Systems, your users and stuff like that. Network is just your general network information. Alarms, I have not gotten into alarms, but you know, they're dealing with, like, there's a motion alarm someplace or something to that effect. Channels are your cameras, and recording is how do you want to record on each of the channels. So I'm just going to click on one of them, and it will put you channel, record, alarm, network, the same thing that was on the other side. And then it's going to start searching. And this takes a couple seconds. So there's the one that I don't know where this one's at. This one looks like this one is in the barn. So I'm going to go to edit it. Yeah, this one's already connected in the barn. So if this would not, if I would not have already set the IP address and the subnet mask and the gateway for the very first camera, this would have to be set up. So this would have been 10.10.25.132. It would have been 255.255.000.000, and the gateway would have been 10.10.25.001. But now this automatically found it. So this one's, like I said, this is the one in the barn. Click OK. And then we can hit add. And that's the one we want. Alias, we're just going to leave it at channel 4. And then hit add. And you'll notice this stays up for some reason. You got to hit cancel. That it disappeared from the top and appeared down here. And now it's become live. I'm trying to figure out why the other one is not being found. And it might just be that I've got a bad cable that's connecting it, or it's not plugged in all the way. So you can see that the very first camera has come up here. We're going to go in and edit it and change the gateway here to 008. 008, 008, 008. And we're going to change this guy up here to 000. And this should be 010010025. And then hit OK. And then do another search. Should come up with a different IP address. And then we should be able to add it. And hit
add. There we go. So now we take this, now we have, this is the one in the barn, this is the one locally here. So as you can see me here with the one locally recording. That. Get this back here. And we can go back to seeing all of the cameras, and so this is the one in the barn, this is the new one in the barn, and the other three, and then this one here. So setting up cameras, it does take a little bit of playing around with them, but as you can see, once it's set up, it's pretty easy to get into it and do what you need to do. You just need to know what your IP address is in your domain subnet. So this one here is 2.55. I think we could change this to 2.55. Oh, got to be in the right spot. Pretty much could probably change that to whatever you want. You just needed to have this on 010, 010, 025, 168. Let's see what happens when we change that. Yeah, I didn't think it was going to make a difference, so we're here. So with the setup and stuff, like I said, there's a lot of different things that are underneath here for record. If you come into record, the normal, I usually turn the normal off, or I have been, just because it'll record that all the time. I just want motion for my stuff. And you can do this for every single channel, you know, whatever you want to do. So you can have some channels that do something, some things that don't. Network, this is all your network information. So this is where I got my subnet mask of 255.255.00, so we could change that. And this is where I got my IP address, was the 10.10.25. I just taken what it was locally. The device, these are all your hard drives. So those are the two hard drives. I got links in the below for all that. And the one in the barn is still on because it's set up for dual. This one here is still on because I still have it set up for just recording. We'll have to change that. Maintenance and all this stuff. Multi-user. You can have multiple users on it. You can have the admin is what you have to be logged into in order to do add users. So the other part that I want to show you is, I got to get out of that to right click, is searching capabilities, and then we're going to wrap this video up. So here's number 5. So if we go, there's just a small little area right here. So if I hit search, you can see I'm talking and this is not me. So I can click around and, you know, where we're at. And you can see the cat came in here somewhere. There she is. So the cat decided to walk across the camera. But she's not there now. Anything that's out in the barn, there'd be no movement right now because all of the cats are inside. So there's no movement on anything except for what's happening right here right now. So there was some movement in the barn. The one thing I do not like, this is me going out to the barn to set up the other camera. The one thing I don't like about this is it's 30 minutes or 1 hour or whatever to where the slice of the time is. So you can see me trying to hook this camera up. The cat comes over. Got the camera's hooked up. Here she is. I think I pick her up and we go outside. Yeah. Hopefully you've gained some more knowledge about our surveillance system than you knew before. And hopefully there's things in this video that you found that you were looking for on the internet but you couldn't find, and you found it here. Links below in the description, or you're going to get a link for my switches, my router, the NVR system, BackstreetSurveillance.com, and everything else. Do yourself a favor, if you are going to be looking for a surveillance system, I am not affiliated with Backstreet, so this is kind of a review, and I'll give them a thumbs up because I think they got all their nuts and bolts in the right place. Everything seems to be working for me. I can look at my cameras anytime I want. It's kind of funny, most of the time my daughter now is like on her phone, mobile phone in the house, watching the cats play around in the barn, or just, you know, checking out the cameras, which is better than the internet. Remember again, surveillance systems and security systems are two different things. Security systems stop people from breaking in or alert the authorities when they're breaking in. Surveillance systems do just what they say. They're surveil. All they do is they see people break in. So someone could break in, take all your stuff, and leave. So don't not think this is a security system. But you will at least have it all on camera so that maybe you'll get your stuff back, or maybe you'll be able to identify the people. That is one thing your security system cannot do. Okay, your security system will not tell you who broke in or give you a picture of them. Their surveillance camera will. Now, I highly recommend putting both of these on your shop or in your house. If if you're going to put one in, put the other one in. Whichever you guys want to do. So, if you liked the video and you found out all this information was really cool, or you just were entertained by it, click like. Please hit subscribe. Helps me out with YouTube. Helps the channel, and it keeps me progressing down the path that I want to go on. All right. So, have a good day. See you next time in the shop.